Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day, um, and we have a lot to get to today. Um, just, it's very interesting to see how um, Hollywood works and what actors and actresses actually get and they don't get. Yeah, but we got a lot to get to. We have, as I made mention earlier, we have The Misfortune of Nicholas Hoult. We have Super Mario, which is just crushing it at the box office and has more records. And of course, MGM and Amazon are going to answer, I think, Max's little rebranding yesterday, and they have a lot to offer. So, couple of quick things off the top. Number one, I will be doing an Avengers Infinity War um, video. It is actually the 27th. I thought it was the 17th, so it's going to be later on this month. So stay tuned for that, guys. It'll be the 5-year anniversary of Infinity War. I can't even believe that. The very next day, Return of the Jedi comes back to theaters for one day, and that is its 40th anniversary. I remember going to see that as a kid and loved it, as millions of other kids and grown adults have over the years. So I will be doing a video all about the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, pop culture, the whole 9 yards with that. Later on in the summer, we have a Mission Impossible rewatch we are going to be doing here on the channel. I just sat down and watched Mission Impossible last night, took a lot of notes. So I will be talking about Mission Impossible. So beginning June 2nd, guys, every single week on a Friday. So June 2nd, the 9th, 16th, so on, you guys are going to be getting a brand new Mission Impossible recap and whatnot. And then that's all going to lead up to July 19th, where, of course, Dead Reckoning Part 1 comes out. And I will be doing a spoiler cast review for that. Perfect movies. We are a couple weeks away from May. I understand that. However, I sat down with Matthew Anderson, and we are going to be doing Empire Strikes Back for the perfect movie of the month for May. And that's going to be coming out on Star Wars Day, May 4th. So, guys, check that out. Okay, now that we have all that out of the way, let's dive into today's stuff. So, as I may mention on the top, actors, actresses, they have roles that they can get attached to or not so much. Nicholas Hoult is one of those guys that actually he had a chance to be a big, big star. Now, not that he isn't a big star already, because he is, because he's done a lot of other great films. Okay, he just did The Menu about 6 months ago in November. Of course, he was Beast in the previous X-Men installments. But when you get a brand name IP, your stock just shoots through the roof, especially if you're good in it. And he had a lot of opportunities. So I want to read this to you. This comes from Variety, guys. And it says, Nicholas Hoult lost roles in The Batman, Top Gun Maverick, and Mission Impossible. All in a row. I got a call from Tom Cruise. What's it like to be turning down Tom Cruise? Just asked Nicholas Hoult. In a new interview with The Guardian, the Mad Max Fury Road and the Menu star revealed that Cruise personally called him to join the Mission Impossible franchise for its 2-part finale, which will kick off this summer with the 7th installment, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which I was just referring to. Hoyt accepted the role, which reports claimed it was a huge one, and it was the finale's main villain. Hoyt was cast in Mission Impossible 7 in January of 2020, but by May of 2020, he was exiting the movie and being replaced by Isa Morales. According to Hoult, his contractual obligations to the Hulu period comedy The Great got in the way of him joining the Mission Impossible franchise. Perhaps it wouldn't have been such a gut punch, but had Hoult not been coming off 2 major rejections from Hollywood franchises. I screen tested for The Batman and didn't get it, Holt said. Screen tested for Top Gun, didn't get it. And then I got a call from Tom Cruise. Hey, how about Mission Impossible? Okay, got it. And then I had to drop out because I was already attached to do some more of the great. Holt lost out on the Batman, Top Gun Maverick, and Mission Impossible 7 in a row. The Batman director, Matt Reeves, selected Robert Pattinson for his Batman / Bruce Wayne, and the two are set to go into production on Batman Part 2 later this year. The first film earned $770 million at the worldwide box office. While Holt did not disclose which Top Gun Maverick role he auditioned for, it was likely Rooster or Hangman. While he did not get the role, Cruise clearly liked what he saw in Holt and offered him the Mission Impossible 7 instead. Maverick went on to become one of the top grossing movies of all time with $1.49 billion worldwide. Holt currently stars opposite Nicholas Cage in the Dracula comedy Renfield, which is now playing in theaters from Universal Studios. Or Universal Theaters, excuse me. Can you imagine that? Picture that for a minute. You've got a number of different roles that you're going to probably be doing. And you're all lined up for it. And you have to drop out. He screen tested for the Batman, which made nearly $800 million worldwide, didn't get it. Screen test for the Top Gun Maverick for either Rooster or Hangman, didn't get it. And then Cruise says, hey, look, come on, Mission Impossible. And he's like, sure, but he has to drop out. That is, and mind you, I love the menu. I loved the menu, okay? He was fantastic in it. Of course, he was really good as Beast in the earlier X-Men films, but can you imagine that? I mean, picture that for a minute. You miss out on not one, not two, but three of arguably the biggest franchises in Hollywood today. I mean, I feel so bad for this guy. It's just tragic. But, you know, I mean, and now he's in Renfield, going to be playing this week, coming out this week. But I got to say something. Good things come to those who wait. Because he is on Tom Cruise's radar. And Tom Cruise is like an encyclopedia when it comes to people, when it comes to films, when it comes to production. I guarantee you, mark my words, okay, he's going to try and get Hoyt in there at some point. I have no doubt in my mind because it's one of those things where he doesn't forget. He doesn't forget. I guarantee you 5, 6, 7 years down the road, he's going to pick up the phone and Tom Cruise is going to be on the other end of that line and say, hey, Nicholas, remember when you couldn't do Mission Impossible? I got another movie for you. And he's going to be in that movie. And that's going to be huge. I feel so bad for this guy. But it's all a matter, too, of what what it is. Yeah, so you just came in, Coco. So I was just talking about, I don't know if you've heard the news, but Nicholas Hoult, okay, a really good actor. Really, I mean, he was in the menu. He played Beast in the earlier X-Men films. He actually lost out on not one, not two, but three major Hollywood roles. He screen tested for the Batman. He didn't get it. He screen tested for Top Gun Maverick. Okay, either the Rooster character or the Hangman character. Didn't get it. Tom Cruise picks up the phone, says, hey, come on, Mission Impossible 7. He's like, sure. What ends up happening is he joins in January of 2020. By May of 2020, he had contractual obligations to the show called The Great. He couldn't make it. So he couldn't even be in Mission Impossible 7, the one that's coming out this summer. Underrated actor? Yeah. He is an underrated actor. And I I love the menu. I loved the menu. As much as everybody was talking about Ralph Fiennes, Ray Fiennes, Nicholas Hoult was fantastic in that movie. Loved it. Um, that being said, I think now that he is on Tom Cruise's radar, and this is what I was saying when you came in, I have no doubt in my mind that Tom Cruise, he's like an encyclopedia, right? He remembers names, he remembers times. No, I haven't. So he's asked me, have I seen the Mario movie? No, I haven't, and I'm going to this weekend. I have to go to the bank tomorrow morning, and I'm going to make it a point to go watch Mario. Absolutely, I might even do a double feature. We'll see. Um, so yeah, he's like Tom Cruise is a sponge. I wouldn't be shocked or surprised within 5 years, okay, if he has Nicholas's phone number and he calls Nicholas Hoult and says, "Hey, Nick, I got a role for you." So good things are going to come to those who wait. He is absolutely going to get a role with Tom Cruise. I have no doubt in my mind. But it's so unlucky to have you to have three roles, major roles. But like I said, to those good things come to those who wait, and I have no doubt that he'll get something. He will get a big IP, and or I'll even say this: if he doesn't work with Cruise, he's gonna actually talk to somebody who knows of a big movie coming up, and he will be getting the lead in that and say, "Look, I know somebody." So, I mean, if you know the backstory of how Glenn Powell actually got the role um, from for Top Gun Maverick, it's interesting because he didn't want the role. He auditioned for the role, and he said Tom Cruise came. He sat down with Tom Cruise and had dinner, and he's like, "Thank you so much for meeting me. I'm really not interested though." But he says, "Can I ask you one question?" He says, "Sure." He says, "How did you get to be so good?" And he said, "I pick the roles. I don't pick the movies." So, real quick, Coco says here, "I want him to be in a Star Wars, to be honest. That wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be a bad role for him. It would have to be the right picture, though. It would have to be the right story. Um, who knows? I mean, they have a couple of Star Wars movies coming out in the next couple of years. Who knows? I think that would be a really cool role for him, Coco. That's a good thought. So, what do you guys think? I mean, is this the most unluckiest trail of or streak you've ever heard of? If not, which ones are better? Could you actually imagine a Miles Teller not playing Rooster? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so our next story of the day is of course, we all know that HBO, or I shouldn't say HBO Max just rebranded themselves into Max yesterday, and they came out with a bunch of different stuff. They're coming out with a new Harry Potter series, a Big Bang Theory spinoff. We've got a new Game of Thrones series coming out. Not to mention, they've got The Last of Us, and they've got a ton of other content. So, that being said, the gloves are off because MGM and Amazon. So Amazon, you have to understand something. Amazon owns all of the whole MGM library. So we're talking about things like a RoboCop and a Legally Blonde and a Stargate, and of course they own all of the James Bond. They are now coming out, and they are introducing spin-offs or movies for all of these IPs that you see here. So this comes from Deadline, and it says RoboCop, Stargate, Legally Blonde, and Barbershop among titles in works for film and television as Amazon looks to supercharge MGM IP. MGM's extensive film and television catalog built over the past century was the main driver behind Amazon's $8.5 billion acquisition of the storied Hollywood studio. For the past year, since the deal closed in March of 2022, Amazon Studios has been sifting through MGM's library, identifying about a dozen initial titles for film and/or television development. This includes, as pictured here, RoboCop, Stargate, Legally Blonde, Fame, Barbershop, The Magnificent Seven, Pink Panther, and The Thomas Crown Affair. We hear A-list creative spurs have reached out to inquire about adapting MGM IP, which they're fans of. Additionally, Amazon Studios has been leaning on its own roster of IP of talent for some projects. Each town is approached differently. Some are steered toward film, some toward television, and some other ones are getting both movie and television treatment. For example, Amazon Studios is in active conversation on Legally Blonde, both for a movie and a potential television series, sources say. They already have been on and off efforts to get a third Legally Blonde film off the ground for the past 5 years. Amazon has similar plans for Stargate. We hear both film and television installments are considered, with a movie likely going first. RoboCop also is being talked about for both film and television, with a television show possibly first, Deadline hears. Additionally, Amazon Studios is actively developing television series based on Fame, Barbershop, and The Magnificent Seven, sources say. There are discussions about a Thomas Crown Affair movie as well as a Pink Panther movie, which could be animated, sources say. A Poltergeist project is a possibility down the road, we hear. Deadline has already revealed plans for a Creedverse spanning film and television, which Amazon Studios has been discussing with franchise star and filmmaker Michael B. Jordan. The studio also just made a first-look deal with Sylvester Stallone and his Balboa Productions for film and television. We hear expanding the Rocky brand into television may be a part of it. There are currently no plans for other James Bond series beyond the unscripted competition announced shortly after Amazon's acquisition of MGM's close, as the franchise producers are focused on figuring out the next film installment. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. Lot of stuff. lot of stuff. I think the thing is this. You have to understand that some of this stuff is 25 years old, even older than that. So you take like a Stargate, okay, which, has had, television spinoff into SG-1 and everything else. And that did okay. Stargate was pretty good for a sci-fi picture, okay? Kurt Russell, William Dafoe, bunch of other actors. They find this portal, they are transported to a different time. So you could essentially jump through time and jump through universes. It was pretty good for its time. Legally Blonde was a huge hit back in the day. Huge hit. I could see them trying to bring that back, even though they've been trying to get that off the ground for the past 5 years. Barbershop, maybe. That would probably work better as a streaming show. Okay, just my thoughts. I don't know how big of a hit another barbershop film would be. The market might be out there, though. It has to be done well. And RoboCop. And I think RoboCop is the biggest one out of these because when you look at the grand scheme of things, okay, we've had a couple of different iterations, right? We had the 1987 version with Peter Weller, okay, which was incredible. The director of that film went on to do other films like Total Recall and, Starship Troopers and, of course, Basic Instinct. The sequels, I never saw the sequels. They just weren't as good for me. Okay. That all being said, I think the fact that now that you're actually trying to develop this stuff, I think RoboCop would definitely work as a feature film. Okay. Now, the reason I say that is because there was another one that just came out. I want to say it was 2017. I could be wrong about that. and it was a bust. It was an absolute bust. And I 2014 actually. So it will be 10 years next year. Okay, it will be 10 years next year that remake came out. Um, that was horrible. I love the '87 version because there was so many different dynamics to it. Okay, you had the um, you had the man versus machine. Okay, you had the um, how human aspect of it. Okay, wanting to actually keep the human element to the character, and yet he was a machine because he was broken up. Um, he had a memory, okay, and that was the big thing. And then he was off to do good and fight crime. I I would say this. I think if you're gonna go do a RoboCop movie, okay, and I don't know how old he is off the top of my head, okay. I mean, the last time I remember seeing Peter Weller was Star Trek Into Darkness, okay. Peter Weller, I want to say, is right around 75, 78 years old. Um, I'll look into that right now for you guys. Anyways, I think that what you have to do, okay, is you have to go and get Peter Weller. Because if you don't, okay, um, if you don't, it's so he's 75 right now, okay. That's not horrible, okay. Now, could he do exactly all the things that he did back in 1987? Of course not. But I think it would be fascinating to see this. I think it would be fast. Now, the question is, would he want to come back and do it? Okay. It's been quite a long time. I think that, I think this is the major one out of it. Okay. The fact that they're not developing any James Bond material is fascinating. Um, No Time to Die. I didn't care for it at all. It was too long. I didn't like the villain. Okay, it just had a multitude of problems to it. Now, the only reason I feel like Raleigh Malek got it, and I could be totally wrong about this, guys, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments for this. The only reason why Raleigh Malek got that is because he won the Academy Award for Bohemian Rhapsody. That's it. That's it. Because the script was terrible. I didn't believe the whole third act. Now, that all being said, I think MGM really has to, clean their palate, okay, and get the bad taste out of their mouth because not a lot of people did. But before you can move forward with James Bond, I think they learned their lesson with that. They have to, because they will never do another linear story again. They've learned their lesson. That being said, they have to find the next James Bond. So if they've got all of these things in development, okay, you're probably not going to see a James Bond movie for at least 5, 6, 7 years. I think I think MGM wants people to forget about No Time to Die and go away into the night, and then you might see another thing. Because here's the problem: the minute they decide that they have a James Bond, the minute they decide, okay, we've got our James Bond, people are going to say, okay, what's the story? When are you going to start developing him? Because they want to see it. It's turned 60 years old this year, don't forget. I mean, you've had a multitude of different people play the character. It is probably the most iconic character in film of all time. Of all time. I mean, so that all being said, MGM, I think if they're so let's run through these real quick. So I think, okay, if they're going to do all of these IPs, okay, and by the way, like I said at the beginning of the thing, I think this is in response to Max actually showing up with all these shows. So let's say they're going to do all these IPs, okay. I think Barbershop would absolutely work as a streaming show. I don't think, I just don't think a feature film would work for that. I think it would be much better for streaming. And it would be more cost effective. Okay, that's just my own personal thoughts. Okay, Star Stargate. I think what you do, okay, I think you could put a streaming show together, okay, 8, 10 episodes or whatever you want, and then go out and do a feature film. Because if you just come out with a feature film, there's no context to it. But if you do, because you have this whole, library, if you do this, I think people will watch this on Amazon Prime. And that's how you get it going. And then when the feature film comes out, there's going to be more buzz for it. Legally Blonde. I think, look, they've been trying to get this up and running for 5 years. Okay. I think, and this is another thing that I'm going to say to like RoboCop. If you bring anybody back besides Reese Witherspoon, I don't think it's going to work. And mind you, obviously, I got to preface it by saying this much. It all depends if they want to come back. I mean, you have to pay them some money. I mean, not as much as Reese probably, but because that's who they remember. Okay? When you have iconic characters like this, this is who they remember. So you've got to do that. RoboCop. I think RoboCop could be a feature film. And you say, but the other one's not even 10 years old. Right. But here's the thing. You could actually I won't say totally retcon the 2014 one. Okay. But you could absolutely, if you want to take elements out of that, that's fine. But you could actually tell the story of when we see RoboCop at the end of that first film, okay, we see him, as that law-abiding thing, the cop, okay. Now, RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3 were just cash grabs. Let's call it what it was, okay, because the first one did so well. That being said, I think that you could hypothetically tell the story of what it was like for, Alex Murphy. I mean, now, mind you, this only made, so you have, let's put this in perspective. This whole film made $53 million on a $13 million budget. Now, it made 3 times its money. Okay? There's something to be said there. Now, I think you could bring him back. I don't know. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. I just can't see anybody else playing RoboCop. It's like Freddy Krueger for me. I grew up in the 80s. Okay, I'm an 80s boy. I can't see anybody else but Robert Englund playing Freddy Krueger. Or, if we want to go down the Hellraiser, Doug Bradley. I can't see anybody else but Doug Bradley playing Pinhead. Anyways, that's my thought. So I think what you do is, to finish this up quickly, you RoboCop is a feature film. Legally Blonde you could actually do as a streaming series. Stargate you do as a streaming series and then a movie, and then Barbershop would definitely be a streaming series. What do you guys think about these IPs? And by the way, guys, let me touch on one other thing. They're actually considering bringing the Magnificent Seven, the Thomas Crown Affair, and the Pink Panther. So those are 3 I didn't even talk about. So I don't know how you do the Magnificent Seven. I love the remake 2016. That was fun. I mean, the old one with Yul Brynner is a classic. You can't ever touch that. Anyways, guys, what do you think about all this stuff? Which one of these IPs would you like to see turned into a movie? Which would you like to see turned into a streaming show? Which would you like? Who would you get for James Bond if they were going to develop that? Leave me your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so the last couple stories are going to be about arguably the biggest movie in the last couple weeks. Okay, and that is Super Mario. Super Mario has just absolutely crushed all of the competition, every single one of them. Now, it's interesting. So, before we get into the numbers about it, there's something else about Super Mario that's very impressive, and I'll get to that in a couple minutes. But this comes from the Hollywood Reporter, and it talks about how Super Mario led the way for the April bloom of films. The April box office is in full bloom thanks to the astounding performance of the Super Mario movie, which served up the biggest global opening of all time for an animated film, with $375 million over the long Easter weekend. And it shows no signs of slowing down as it prepares to jump to the next level and clears the $500 million global mark in the next few days. And we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. Its massive 5-day domestic opening of $246 million includes $146.4 million for the 3-day weekend. Now, let me put this in perspective real quick. That number that I just read to you guys is number 30 all time, just $2 million shy behind Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And Amazon kicked off a new era of the streaming, giving Ben Affleck adult-skewing drama Air a proper theatrical release in thousands of theaters and sending it straight to Amazon Prime Video. Of course, that was huge. And I had been saying for weeks that was going to overperform, and it did. Okay, it made $20 million, and it's only going to get bigger. And you're going to have all the revenue from streaming. So, Apple Original Films is also switching course and making a foray into theatrical, including Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon. The Czech giant is partnering with Paramount on the release. Scorsese's film, which will make a splashy debut at the Cannes Film Festival, opening in theaters around the world this fall during award season. Well, think about it. It's costing them $200 million to make, okay? They have some of the biggest stars in the world, okay? Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by Martin Scorsese. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And they see what Netflix did with 1 week of Glass Onion. So, 3 years after COVID-19 first destabilized the theatrical sector, a breadth and depth of product is returning to the marquee, providing a glimmer of hope of fretful Hollywood studios and exhibitors. Marvel's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and DC's Shazam! Fury of the Gods may have underperformed, but March's releases Scream 6 and Creed 3 and John Wick Chapter 4 are all major box office wins. A varied pipeline of product once again is flowing at the pre-pandemic levels, at least in August and throughout the early summer. There are 15 nationwide releases slotted for April, compared to the 11th in 2019 and 2018, according to ComScore. And there is a total of 34 releases set for April, May, and June, one more than the 33 during the same quarter in 2019. Now, let me read the quote, and then I'll finish the sentence and I'll say something. I would characterize April as being the broadest slate we've ever had from a number of different distributors that could draw into a broad audience that is sustainable than a single big film, says Elizabeth Frank, AMC's Theater's Executive VP Worldwide Programming and Chief Content Creator. That's a very good thing for the moviegoers of all age. So she brings up a fantastic point, okay? And the point is this. There is stuff here that is that's out there for everybody. So let's get to one of the comments real quick. RoboCop with Peter Weller, but he's handing off the job to a younger cop. Yeah, that works, David. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that could easily work. I really do, because the thing is, it's one of those franchises that's underrated. And when you've had a couple of bad sequels or remake, in case of 2014 one, what ends up happening is people forget about it. So, I don't know. I think that would be I think that would be a fascinating thing. Um, but getting back to the the Mario for a minute, this is the first time, and so they're talking about the number of releases. Okay, they're talking about the number of releases slated for April, and then April, May, and June. And I've said this constantly. This is going to be the first time, okay, that you are going to be for the first time that you are going to be able to walk to the movie theater, or okay, and now two things. Number one, okay, two things. Number one, this is the first time that you have um, movies for everybody. You've had a Scream 6, which is appealing to the 18 to 34 crowd. You have Super Mario, which is appealing to the younger generation, the kids. You have a John Wick 4, which is appealing to the adults. Air, which is appealing to the adults. This is the first time you have things for everybody there, which is very, very good. And the second thing I'm going to say is this is going to be the first time in about 5 years we as moviegoers are going to be, it's going to be an abundance of riches, because we're going to have 9 movies come out in 12 weeks that are amazing. Every single one of them. Okay? Whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy, whether it is Fast 10, whether it is Across the Spider-Verse, whether it is The Flash, whether it is, Barbie, whether it is Oppenheimer, whether it is Mission Impossible, it doesn't matter. We're going to have so many movies for so many different people. Huge. So let me finish the piece real quick. And not only did Super Mario Brothers exceed expectations, but so did Air, a period biographical drama about Nike's successful bid to sign up an up-and-coming Michael Jordan. Adult dramas have been a tough time since the pandemic, but Air posted a promising 5-day debut of $20.2 million against a production budget of $90 million before marketing. Initially, after opening to a tepid numbers on April 5th, a Wednesday, Amazon insiders were predicting a 5-day opening of just around 16 million, but traffic picked up in earnest by Friday. Nearly 40% of ticket buyers were 45 or older, including a whopping 25% over 55. Overseas, the movie opened with $10.5 million from 59 markets and a global start of $30.7 million. I'll say this much. The fact is, I loved Air. And by the way, guys, go back and watch the spoiler cast I did, and I'll put it up there in the little thing for you. It was amazing. It really, really was. I'm kind of biased. I'm from Boston, yes, but more importantly, I'm a big poker fan, as anybody who knows me knows. I thought this was Matt Damon's second best performance. Now, truth be told, I haven't seen The Martian, I haven't seen a couple of other things. However, anybody who's watched Air, that boardroom speech soliloquy was incredible. And by the way, this is never going to make all its money back. Okay? Amazon knows this. They know it. But they're willing to roll the dice and do something about it. In addition to attracting families, Mario's defined expectations by appealing to general audiences who grew up playing the games. 45% of ticket buyers were between the age of 18 to 34, compared with 27% for fellow Illumination titles Minion: The Rise of Grogu, which grossed $123 million in its 4-day domestic box office over the 2024 July 4th holiday, including $107 million for the first 3 days, on its way to almost $1 billion globally last year. Mario is once again living proof that families and audiences of all generations want to go to the theaters in droves, said analyst Sean Robbins of Box Office Pro, noting the lack of content for long stretches of time in 2022. Mario and Air added to the chorus of a great box office run to end the year's first quarter and started the second with what feels like normalcy. people, perhaps the best part of it is that the content will keep coming around. This is quite a long article. I'll finish it. There's not much left. Over the course of the April 14th to 16th weekend, no fewer than 5 films are opening wide. The Nicholas Hoult, Nicolas Cage vampire comedy, as I was making mention of, Renford. The Russell Crowe supernatural thriller, The Pope's Exodus. Comedy, Mama, starring Toni Collette. And we have Sweetwater. So while domestic box office revenue year to date is $2.1 billion, and it's up 29% from 2022, it is nevertheless down 19% from 2019, prompting continued concerns about the overall box office recovery. The breadth and quality of the planned movie releases should temper theater risk concerns and lift attendance. Credit film Fitch Ratings said April 10th, but warned that the attendance may have a hard time returning to pre-pandemic levels. But the mood amongst analysts and theater owners certainly improved with Super Mario's sensational showing. With the overall increased numbers of films, the industry finally has hit a pre-pandemic level of constant, animated, and family-friendly flicks throughout the summer and year and holiday, says Robbins, all which kickstarted by Mario. Okay, couple quick things. Number one, we're going to have a huge summer. I don't think there's any question about that. I did a piece about 3 or 4 months ago stating that, according to experts out there, hypothetically, you could see between 7 to 8 $1 billion films. That's how big it could be. Okay. And when you run the gamut, they're not wrong. Now, that being said, 2019 was huge. Okay. It made almost $14 billion. And there's a couple reasons why. Okay. You had Black Panther. Okay. And you had Endgame. Endgame made almost $3 billion all by itself. Black Panther made close to $800 to $900 million. Okay. So the fact is that was, so you're talking about a $3 to $4 billion swing, right? Just right there. Okay. And it's one of those things where it made $1.3 billion. Okay. And that actually came out in 2018. It wasn't 2019. I stand corrected. That being said, you had a movie that made almost $3 billion. One movie. That number I just read to you was cumulative for the year, $2.1 billion. So I don't think you're ever going to see 2019 numbers again, but you'll get close. You might see 8, 9, maybe $9.5 billion. You're never going to see 14 billion. Okay. That being said, though, we're slated for a huge summer. The other thing too is we're probably not going to get back, okay, to pre-pandemic levels, probably until 25, 26, maybe 27. Okay, it's going to take time. Now, with movies like Superman coming out, in a couple of years, and you're going to have all these, that's really going to help. Because you're going to have Marvel, it'll be competing against Marvel and the whole 9 yards. That all being said, though, I think this is a big sign that we've got a ton of stuff to come. And we're only 2 weeks away. I mean, I just did the story yesterday, okay? Guardians of the Galaxy is projected today at $130 million. So it's one of those things where that's not bad. I mean, it's right around Mario levels. And consider this. Last year, right around this time, Multiverse of Madness made $187 million. Now, of course, all Marvel movies are going to be front-loaded. We all know that. But it's a matter of the second weekend. And there are only going to be a couple of films, and I've said this before, to win 2 weekends, Guardians being the first. Okay? You're going to have The Flash and Indiana Jones as the other two. So if This could make 140 to 150 million dollars. I'm talking about Guardians. It's going to have a huge summer. So, anyways, guys, what do you think? Do you think it's going to get to $1 billion? Do you think Mario could hit $1 billion? Do you think it could finish at $700 million? How much do you think it's going to finish at? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Okay, so last story. Last story is about Mario. And I was just making mention of the absolute unbelievable run it had. This film is a juggernaut. There's no other word for it. It's an absolute juggernaut. And I don't know if Illumination or even Universal knew what they had on their hands. I think they did, but I don't even think they were going to have it perform this well. So, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Super Mario has crossed $500 million globally. It took less than a week for Universal and Illumination's movie to zoom past Ant-Man and the Wasp, becoming the top-grossing film of 2023. It is also the #1 video game adaptation of all time. Mario #1. In under a week, Universal and Illumination's Nintendo's video game adaptation, The Super Mario Bros., has already become the top-grossing 2023 release to date at the global box office, with $508 million in worldwide ticket sales through Thursday. It only took a matter of days for Super Mario to knock off Ant-Man and the Wasp, the previous year's best earner at $474 million in global ticket sales, including a $212 million domestic. Super Mario's domestic gross through Thursday stands at $260 million, which is likewise the top showing of the year to date. Overseas, it's earned a stellar $248.4 million. The list of records shattered by this movie since its launch over the long Easter holiday continues to grow, now ranking as the top-grossing video game adaptation of all time, passing up Warcraft at $439 million and Pokemon Detective Pikachu at $449 million. And its second biggest animated film since 2019, behind fellow Illuminations released Minions, which earned $942.5 million during its last year. Super Mario bumps anime blockbuster Slayer, which earned $494 million worldwide, to #3. Other notable stats as it heads into its second weekend. Super Mario is already Universal's 10th biggest animated film of all time at the global box office, and is only among 13 Hollywood films to have crossed $500 million worldwide since 2019. Of the 13, 5 of them belong to Universal, more than any other studio. The other 4 are Jurassic World Dominion, Rise of Grogu, Fast 9, and No Time to Die. Elsewhere, a plethora of other new movies hit North American cinemas this weekend in what marks as one of the most varied and crowded lineups since the pandemic struck. Universal's modern-day Dracula comedy Renfield, starring in Screen Gem's supernatural thriller The Post-Exodus, are already finding themselves in a close race. Many analysts believe for the former will prevail. Renfield, starring Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, started off with $900,000 in Thursday previews, followed by $850,000 for Russell Crowe's starring The Pope's Exodus. Tracking suggests the two films will open between the $8 to $10 million range. A wild card is anime maestros Haki Shindo's coming of age anime adventure. A hit in their home territories of Japan late last year, the film is now rolling internationally after playing in competition at the 2023 Berlina. Okay, so it was a film festival. Excuse me. Anime has been doing big business since United States theaters, and some theaters could say that this could open between 5 to 8 million. So basically, here's the story. It's just going to keep going and going. Widely educated guess Super Mario will cross $1 billion. Yeah, I have no doubt, David. So says considering its pace. Now, here's what I'm going to say, and is anybody who knows this, okay? It is not about opening weekend. Now, getting back to what I was saying earlier, the thing is that this is the 30th largest opening of all time. Let me repeat that. Of all time. It's only $2 million back of Guardians 2. That being said, so I mean the other 130 some odd million that it made, or the other 60 million it made, was helpful. Yeah, I can't imagine this not. If it doesn't cross $1 billion, it's going to get very, very close. But like I was going to say, it's not about the opening weekend. As everybody knows, it's about the second weekend. So usually in that second weekend, what you want, okay, is you want to drop between, if you can get 40 to 50%, fantastic. 50 to 60%, okay. If it drops 60 to 70% like Ant-Man did and it fell off a cliff, they're in trouble. Now, considering if we want to go just on the Friday to Sunday numbers at 150, my guess is, so there's a couple of things at play here. Number one, it's short. It's only 93 minutes. Number two, it is an IP everybody knows. Number three, it is kid and adult friendly. It's a 4-quadrant film, okay? You're going to get gamers, you're going to get adults, you're going to get kids. That all being said, if I had to put a number on this, I would probably say it's going to make between 70 and 80 million. Because, Renfield's going to do well, and the Pope's Exorcist is going to do well. Don't forget, Russell Crowe's in his 60s. I want to say he's 63, 64. That all being said, okay? It's one of those things, unless you know Russell Crowe, okay, and you like his work, and you've watched his work, then he's 59. He's going to be turning 60. As a matter of fact, he just celebrated his 59th birthday last week, a week from today. That all being said, that's going to skew toward the older crowd, okay? Just like Air is skewing toward that crowd. So we have Metal here says, I don't know. It's a toss-up to me. It's a toss-up that it's going to make $1 billion. Yeah, I mean, it could. I think it's going to depend, Metal, on what, A, how well it does here this week, and B, okay, what it continues to do overseas. If it continues, so it's made almost $250 million overseas in 55, 56 markets. If it continues to do that, it will definitely make $1 billion in a heartbeat. And the fact that they have, this is only the 13th film ever to cross $1 billion since 2019, says something. This movie is an absolute juggernaut, as I said at the start of the piece. There's not much else you're going to say. This is going to rule, really, the box office until May 5th. That's it. It's going to make its money. This was a perfect pocket for Super Mario because it slid in. It's going to make a ton of money, and then it's going to get out once Guardians comes. And then you're not even talking about all the streaming revenue it's going to make. I can't even imagine. That would be interesting. So I did make mention of the repeat viewing. I did make mention of that because it is only 93 minutes. Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to have kids wanting to go see this over and over. Oh, no, I because of that. No, absolutely. With multiple shows. This is going to rule the box office for the next 2 weeks until Guardians hits. And then, of course, Guardians is going to clean up. But everybody's going to forget about Mario. So I think that, do you think it will make enough for a part 2? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, Metal. In a heartbeat. There's no doubt in my mind. I think this was a beautiful accident for, universal and elimination. That's what I think. And I think the fact that they opened it here, they said, oh, wow, we got something here. And that being said, I think that the fact is that they get it. They know what they have. And now you can do a whole Mario universe. You can do Super Smash Brothers. You can do Mario Kart. You can do a whole number of things. But it was just a matter of this first one. I absolutely don't be shocked within a couple of years if you see another one released. Don't be shocked in, let's say, by 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if you're going to hear about a sequel being made, because they want to strike when the iron's hot, right? And I would say this much. I would go so far as to say this. You could even now the Easter's. This was interesting because Easter fell on a Wednesday or right around this time. You could see them actually put this out for Christmas, okay, and really get the units up, or summer. But it's all going to depend on what is coming out that summer. So, for example, I don't see them putting out one in 2025 when Superman Legacy is coming out. Right around that. There's no way. There's no way. So, because we're going to have a stacked summer next year too. So this is all of the films we're getting too. I mean, the Batman was really the first one. All these films we're getting are because of the pandemic. You got to remember that. The Batman, Guardians, The Flash has been done for 3 years almost. It had been in the can for almost 2 to 3 years. So, I really think that, that's going to be an interesting movie. And we'll talk more about that in a couple of weeks. But, yeah. So, this movie is just amazing. Now, will it cross $1 billion? That remains to be seen. It's all going to depend on how well it does this week. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that it could hit $1 billion? Do you guys think that? How much do you think it's going to make this weekend? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I'll get back to everybody. Okay, so that is going to wrap it up for today's show. But a couple of notes on the going away. Number one, as I said, we do have the Mission Impossible rewatch, which is going to be coming out at the beginning of June. Number two, if anybody who stopped in or, they popped in and out, whatever, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, because this gets all of these streams and all of these videos out to everybody, and that's what I'm trying to do. I want everybody to see this because I love doing this. Meadow says I wanted to succeed. So do I. I really wanted to succeed. I really wanted to do well. And it's going to continue to do well. I have no doubt in my mind. So, number three, we do have the Avengers Infinity War and Return of the Jedi streams coming up at the end of the month. But if you want to support me, and that I think so, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you're seeing that little join button, $2.99 a month. It's a cup of coffee. It'll help me out a lot because I'm trying to, get this thing up and running. Or if you want to do a little bit more, you can head on over to Patreon. Patreon, obviously, there's two different levels. One is $5, which is a gallon of gas, and you're going to be getting a monthly video every single month. That is going to be Mob Mondays. So I'm going to be doing a brand new Mob movie every single month for you guys. If you want to do $10, you're going to get both videos. One is Mob Mondays. The other one is Rewatch Wednesdays. The first one I put up was Steve Jobs, starring Michael Fassbender, Kate Winslet, Seth Rogen, and you guys are going to be getting a new movie. So Rewatch Wednesdays is something I have seen, but I haven't seen in a long time. There are a couple of movies I have up in the suggestions. If you have, by the way, guys, if you have any suggestions for Mob Mondays or Rewatch Wednesdays, leave your thoughts down in the comments. I'm dying to hear what you think, and we can definitely look into that. I'm considering A Star Is Born, and a couple others for Rewatch Wednesdays. But definitely leave your thoughts down in the comments because they have been movies I might not have seen. So, I'm here for it. Yeah, thank you. So if you head on over to Patreon, okay, if you you can do a couple different things, Metal. Number one, there's that little there's that little join button right there. That's going to be, I think it's $2.99 a month. Okay, it's $3. Okay, it's a cup of coffee. Okay, or something you grab, a box of cereal. Number two, you can actually go to you can actually do super chats too. If you want to do it actually and you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to do a super chat. Number three, you head on over this site here, patreon.com/Real Talks. You'll see two different levels. One is for Mob Mondays, and that's $5, and the other one is Rewatch Wednesdays, and that is $10 a month, and you'll get both of them. And it is exclusive. So I am only doing those two shows on Patreon. So yes, it is. And which star is one? So I'm doing the 2018 one. Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper. So I'm doing that one, and definitely. So that's just a thought. I you know what, David? I saw it on television the other day, and it's one of those things where I said I haven't seen this in a long time, and I wanted to watch it, but I said, oh, I'll wait because I want to put it on there. Yes, it is Cooper's because that is the most recent. But you're welcome. You're welcome, Metal. So definitely, it's one of those things where I saw it on television and I went, oh, I love this movie, but I want to wait and watch it. So, it's one of those things where I'm starting to get a couple more ideas for this. I have a whole schedule for Mob Mondays. I might, you know what? I will put this on Twitter, and this is my Twitter handle down here. Okay, let me. So that is my Twitter handle down there, and if you guys want to vote on it, you can, and you guys can actually vote on which ones. So it's WANABEROUNDER, and then I will actually do those. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm gonna do that, and we can actually do this together, and you guys can head on over to Patreon, like I said, and watch. So, okay, that's it. That's all I got today. So do the 3 things you need to do: be careful, be safe, and have a great rest of the day. I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Good Things.